Hello everybody at the South Wairarapa Veterinary Services team. I'm Warwick and I'm wishing you a happy and Merry Christmas 2019 all the way from Perth, Western Australia in the town of Hazelmere. I'm coming to you from my backyard and I'm being filmed by my 16-year-old daughter Taylor. What I'd like to thank you all for today is for allowing me to be part of your celebrations tonight. I hope that you have a fantastic night, and in honour of your celebrations tonight, I've dressed up today as I typically do on an Australian Christmas day in my family, and that is I'm in my board shorts, in a reasonably loud shirt, and a bit of Christmas cheer just for reference around my neck here. We start celebrating early in the morning when it's cool, and we go all day, and usually it's very, very hot over here at Christmas time, so it's the exact opposite of what a white Christmas would be in other places of the world. But it's a fantastic time of year for all of us and a fantastic time of year for all our families. I'd like to share with you some of the things that have been the highlights of my year this year, and the major highlight of my year was coming to join the team at the South Wairarapa Veterinary Services team. I've had a great time since June this year when I first came over, getting to know everybody in the practice and working with the management team and working with the board and participating in the success of your practice. It's a fantastic veterinary practice. It's a really, really nice culture. It's one of the best culture practices that I've ever worked in and done consultancy work for, and I felt so special and so well treated when I came over there earlier this year, and I'm looking forward to coming and seeing you and meeting more of you in February next year. I'd like to give you some of the highlights in addition to that, just so you might get to know me a little bit better. One of the highlights of the year was getting my personal best in my training on mountain biking. We don't have mountains here, we sort of have hill biking, unlike in New Zealand, but it's a sport that I'm really getting into at the moment, and I've now conquered berms. For those of you that go mountain bike riding, you'll realise that that's one of those challenges, and it's been a real big challenge to me. I've had a lot of stacks going over lots of berms, but I think I've just got it nailed down at the moment. The other thing that was the highlight of the year for me was some travel. Travel to Adelaide and to the University at Adelaide there to meet a whole lot of friends that I hadn't seen for a long time, that were part of my 30th annual reunion of veterinary school graduation. So that makes me a real old fart in veterinary terms. The other personal goals that I had was that I ticked off were about shopping, which I really, really love doing, and I bought myself my end stage audiophile headphones, some Vocal Utopias. The best TV series that I saw on TV this year was Chernobyl. If you haven't seen Chernobyl as a TV series, go and watch it. It's absolutely fantastic. And then the best music album that I got this year was a very old album by a band called Angels of Light, and also the new Tool album was out this year, which I've been waiting for, like everyone else, for 13, 14 years, and it's just absolutely fantastic. Some of you, I don't know whether you get Vet Practice magazine over there, but another highlight was that I was featured in Vet Practice magazine for my interest and hobby in collecting music and listening to all sorts of music. What I'd like to do is share you with a little funny story, and I'm going to ask you a question about what do you think a little Shetland colt pony and a vacuum cleaner can have in common, and would you ever see a situation in a veterinary sense where a little Shetland pony and a vacuum cleaner would come together? And you probably can't, and this is a story that I've told many times around different veterinary communities, but and it's often asked for, and many of you should be able to relate to this, but it's quite a funny story, and it relates way back to early in my career. And in fact, it was about Christmas time when the first year I graduated from the practice, and I was called out to do my first ever horse castration. And it wasn't really a horse, it was a tiny little pony this big. And this little pony was named Fred, and was owned by a gentleman called Barry. And Fred was in his little backyard, not much different from my place here, tiny little property, and he called me out to castrate Fred, and Barry and I were there on our own just to castrate Fred. Now Fred was this little Shetland pony about this big, and as a new graduate I was really confident and really cocksure of myself that I could just go out and do this castration without any problems. So I strode out into the property and I get all my medication ready. And in those days we used to anaesthetise horses with pentothal, something you've probably never heard of, many of you younger vets, but it was a fairly brutal anaesthetic. And it was one of those anaesthetics that if you got the dose wrong, things went wrong very, very badly. So long story short, I got everything ready to castrate this little pony, and then I give the pony his induction dose of pentothal intravenously, and he just goes plonk on the ground, lies down asleep, really nice induction of anaesthesia, and he's just lying there, and I'm just looking at him and checking him, and I'm watching him, and Fred's not breathing. So I don't panic. I see can sometimes happen with pentothal. They get a bit of apnea, they stop breathing with pentothal. So I just go down and I pull on his tongue and I twist his ear, and I just sort of, casually sort of just stretch his head out and look at him, and he's not breathing. So I just says, Barry, don't, that's not a drama, don't stress about this. I'm just gonna have a listen to his heart. So I wandered over and grabbed my stethoscope and came back to little Fred lying down there, and put my stethoscope on, and I'm looking at the same time at his chest, and I'm going, ooh, shit. Well, I'm not listening to his heart, but I'm pretending to listen to his heart, and I'm going, shit, what do I do? He's not breathing. So then I just sort of start pushing on his chest a little bit, just trying to see if I could stimulate him to breathe, and he's not breathing. He's just stopped breathing. His heart's still going, but he's not breathing. So I look at his gum colour and he's going blue. And so then I'm thinking, oh Jesus, what am I going to do? This pony stopped breathing on me. And I worked out in my mind that I'd given him far too much pentothal, probably 4 times the dose that I should have given him. And so, he was going to die. If I didn't do something, he was going to die. So what I did is I lay down on the ground, perpendicular, sort of in a line, but facing Fred on the ground, with his nose here and my face here, him lying this way, me lying this way, and I put my mouth to his nose, and on the upper nostril when he lay on his side, and on the lower nostril I blocked it off with my other hand, and I took one big breath and blew like buggery into his nose, and I blew, and I could just see out of the corner of my eye his lungs inflating. So I'm going blue, breathing for him, blowing in hard as I can, and then sucking some air in, and then blowing in again. And I could just see his chest rising up and down. And Barry's looking at me, going, what's going on here? And I'm just, it's all right, this is it's okay, don't worry Barry, this is okay, he's all under control, he's just needs a little bit of help breathing, and it'll all come good, don't stress about it. And I'm thinking, I'll just keep breathing with him, he should start breathing. And after about 3 minutes, I started to get dizzy, I started to hyperventilate, and I realized I could not keep up this mouth-to-nose resuscitation of this pony. So I thought, what can I do? And then I said to Barry, have you got a vacuum cleaner in the house? And he said, yes. I said, can you go and get your vacuum cleaner and run it out to the yard here on an extension cord? So off goes Barry. In the meantime, I'm still resuscitating the pony, going, shit, why is this happening to me? But outwardly melting and panicking, inwardly melting and panicking, but outwardly calm and cool as a cucumber. So Barry comes back to Fred, he's got the vacuum cleaner. And for those of you that had vacuum cleaners in the old days, vacuum cleaners had 2 ports on them in the old days. They had a port that you could put the tube in, and it would suck like a normal vacuum cleaner, and then it had another port on top that if you put the tube in there, the pipe in there, the vacuum cleaning pipe, it would blow. So I connected it up to the blow port, we turned the vacuum cleaner on, and I put this tube, this vacuum cleaner nozzle, this hard nozzle, up little Fred's nose on the upper nostril and blocked off the eye. And as I could hear the vacuum cleaner going, ooh, and his chest would rise up, and then I'd pull it out, and then the vacuum cleaner would go, ooh. And so I started just breathing for Fred with the vacuum cleaner, going, ooh, ooh. And so we ventilated him for about 5 minutes, or I ventilated 5 minutes with the vacuum cleaner, and it was all going quite well. He started to get his colour back and his heart was still going. I thought, well, I've got to crack on and get the castration done. So I asked Barry, can you just breathe for the pony with the vacuum cleaner? So all the time I go and get my surgical gear and I start to castrate the pony, and all while I'm doing that, all I can hear is this vacuum cleaner going, ooh, and then pulls it out of the nostril and it goes, ooh, and then ooh, and the lungs, chest rise up and lungs inflate and comes down again. And I'm thinking, this is easy. I've got it handled. I've got it all under control. What was I worried about? And then just as I finished the surgery, he started breathing on his own. And so little Fred starts breathing, and we stop resuscitating with the vacuum cleaner. And I stand up and I just act like, this is all normal. Yeah, no problems. Thanks for that, Barry. Thanks for the vacuum cleaner. And Fred will be fine now. And we went inside and had a cup of tea, waited for a little Fred to wake up. And he woke up and got up and he was completely fine. So I got paid for and said goodbye to Barry and said, look, I'll pop in and check Barry tomorrow, but right now I better get going back to the practice. So I get in the car and I wave goodbye to Fred, and as I'm driving out the driveway, I just come, acting like this is all cool, no dramas. And then as I get in the car and I'm driving and I pull out of his driveway, I thought, oh my God, I just had a complete meltdown. I can't do this, I'm going to get fired, I'm going to get fired. And I drove all the way about 20 minutes back to the veterinary clinic. And just as I pulled into the back of the veterinary clinic is my boss, and he's standing at the back door with his arms folded like this. And he says to me as I get out of my car, he says, so Warwick, tell me the story about the vacuum cleaner. And I just went, oh shit, it was just a disaster. I nearly killed this pony. I had to resuscitate it with the vacuum cleaner. I'm sorry, I'll resign. I can't ever work as a vet again. This is a complete disaster. And my boss said to me, he said, Fred rang me, and Fred said that he'd never seen anything like it. He'd never seen a vet give mouth-to-nose resuscitation to a horse. He'd never seen a horse have assisted breathing with a vacuum cleaner, and he thinks you're an absolute genius, and he wants you back next week to castrate another one. And I thought, are you joking? And he said, no, he wants you back next week to do another one. So the moral of the story is that I've probably had the worst clinical and surgical disasters of any veterinarian in the world, and I'm still in practice today, 30 years later, and still loving it. So it just takes that inner confidence in the face of complete disaster. So with that, I hope you've enjoyed that story. I hope that you have a fantastic Christmas, and love from me here in WA to all of you guys there. Thank you very much to Karen and the management team for really making me feel welcome, and the fun that I've had working with the partnership group has been very, very rewarding and great fun. So I look forward to more fun times. Take care. Merry Christmas.